The United States of America has completely stopped supplying weapons to NATO for Ukraine. The United States State Department says $5 billion in weapons is delayed. Among the delayed weapons are advanced medium-range air-to-air missile air defense missiles and high-mobility artillery rocket system, multiple launch rocket systems. And it's all because of the shutdown in America. Such news scared or disappointed many people the day before. They say Trump is again blocking aid to Ukraine. But we need to look into these reports because in reality, things aren't as bad as they seem. First of all, the $5 billion amount refers to delays for all United States NATO allies, not just Ukraine. And this delay is for the first time exclusively related to internal political processes in the United States, not to the changing mood of Donald Trump. And secondly, the day before, the United States Senate essentially ended the longest government shutdown in United States history. United States senators reached a bipartisan agreement that will end the shutdown and allow the American government to resume its work. The corresponding bill was supported by 60 senators while 40 opposed it. The agreement will provide funding for the government to operate until January 30, 2026. Now the document will be sent back to the House of Representatives, and then it must be signed by President Donald Trump. Well, this approval process and funding may take a few more days. But Donald Trump himself will definitely sign this document because his ratings have plummeted amid the shutdown, and the midterm elections are just around the corner. Now let's take a closer look at all of this in this episode. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, give a like and write any detailed comment under this video. Subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link is in the description. We publish breaking news as soon as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with any donation or a paid sponsorship subscription using the details and links provided. The video description clearly states, support the Pechiy channel. Use any format that's convenient. I appreciate any support you give. So, I'll start with the first piece of news, which is closer to the Ukrainian viewer. The United States State Department estimates that the government shutdown has delayed American weapons exports to NATO allies and Ukraine. Unfortunately, this is yet another example of the consequences of layoffs, program suspensions, and a slowdown in activity across all federal branches of government, as the government shutdown has now dragged on for 41 days. And so, according to an unnamed official who spoke with Axios, arms deliveries, including advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles, Aegis combat systems, and high-mobility artillery rocket system, have been affected for allies such as Denmark, Croatia, and Poland. As stated, the final destination of the exports is unclear, but arms deliveries to NATO allies are often redirected to aid Ukraine. According to the official, the upcoming deals include both direct arms sales from the United States government to NATO allies and government-to-government arms sales to allies, as well as sales of weapons from the government to allies. The Arms Export Control Act requires the United States Congress to review every proposal for selling weapons abroad. But these proposals must be prepared by the Pentagon and then the United States State Department, and then submitted to the relevant committees of Congress. But the whole problem is that because of the shutdown, most of the State Department employees were sent on unpaid leave, which led to the fact that there was simply no one to submit the proposal to Congress. As it turned out, last month the staff of the State Bureau of Political Military Affairs was about a quarter of the usual number of employees needed to support arms sales. And now, according to the State Department's estimates, a total of $5 billion worth of weapons is being delayed. But it's important to note that the $5 billion worth of weapons is being delayed for all NATO allies, not just Ukraine. And of course, it's worth mentioning that the shutdown in the United States has already lasted for 41 days and has become the longest in the country's history. The previous record shutdown lasted 35 days. That also happened during Donald Trump's first term. The current shutdown has left nearly 1.5 million government employees in America without pay and on indefinite leave. By November 7th, United States losses from the shutdown are officially estimated at nearly $17 billion. Let me remind you, the shutdown began on October 1. Some Republicans and Democrats can't agree on the budget. And the main point of this agreement is the Obamacare health insurance program for low-income groups. Here, the Republicans want to completely shut down the program, which is used by 24 million people, while the Democrats are strongly opposed and demand that its continuation be put to a vote. But now there is already news that the problem with the suspension of arms supplies to Ukraine will be resolved in the next couple of days. Because the shutdown is basically over. The day before in the Senate, the Republicans reached an agreement on the shutdown, and now United States senators have reached a bipartisan agreement that will end the shutdown and allow the American government to resume its work. The corresponding bill was supported by 60 out of 100 senators. The agreement allows funding for the government to continue until January 30, 2026. So, once again, this is a temporary measure. These became possible only because a key group of 8 centrist Democratic senators essentially broke with their party leaders and made a deal with Republican senators and the White House. And here is one of the Democrats who made a deal with the Republicans, Senator Jean Shaheen. Today, she responded to criticism and explained her decision to go against the will of her own party. The fact is, the Senate passed a bill that does not include a guaranteed extension of the expanded subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. Here's Obama and Kerr with Shaheen responding with a quote, "Staying in shutdown mode led nowhere, and critics need to direct their fire at those who are responsible. At President Donald Trump, Speaker Michael Johnson, and the Republicans who are blocking all attempts to get medical assistance. We need to work together." Moreover, such a vote has led to a split within the ranks of the Democratic Party. Some Democrats have already criticized Minority Leader Chuck Schumer for failing to maintain Democratic unity, including, by the way, Representative Ro Khanna, who stated that Schumer, quote, "is no longer effective and should be replaced." Well, he means as the minority leader, so to speak. Nevertheless, the group of 8 Democratic senators is confident that their move will force Speaker of the House Johnson to reconvene the House and address healthcare issues. But the thing is, Speaker Johnson himself hasn't said at all whether he will bring the bill on expanding healthcare subsidies to the House or not. But independent Senator Angus King, who also supported the Republicans, essentially admitted that the Democrats lost the battle since the Democrats' goals have reached a dead end. King said that the Democrats' strategy at the beginning, during the government shutdown, consisted of 2 parts: to oppose Donbass and to get the Republicans to the negotiating table, to stop the sharp increase in insurance premiums under the Affordable Care Act. And here is a quote from Senator King. As a result, the Senate passed a proposal that includes a new temporary measure to extend government funding until January 30 and will be tied to a larger package for fully funding several key agencies. The Republicans are not guaranteeing the extension of healthcare subsidies, which have become the basis of the Democrats' fight for funding. Here's Leader Borisov and the Senate majority. John Thune stated that he will hold a vote on the extension of tax benefits under the Affordable Care Act by the middle of next month, that is, by mid-December. What's next? Now the Senate must send the temporary funding bill to the House of Representatives. Members of the House of Representatives have already received a 36-hour notice to return to Washington for a vote, and they have been advised to expect a vote as early as this week. Afterward, Donald Trump must sign the bill, but as you know, this is only a temporary solution. But it kind of unblocks the work of the United States State Department, which will be able to quickly send a proposal for arms supplies to Ukraine to Congress, and the process will be unfrozen. Well, and Donald Trump will quickly sign this bill for one simple reason. Americans are increasingly expressing dissatisfaction with the United States president's policy regarding the shutdown. According to sociological surveys, 58% of United States citizens do not approve of Trump's actions due to the lack of consensus on the budget, and only 31% support him in his desire not to give in to the Democrats. And this is the lowest figure since the first survey on the shutdown issue. Moreover, voters are increasingly criticizing the Republicans for their inflexibility. So here it would seem that the Democrats have lost, but at the same time the Republicans are also taking certain losses. I'll leave it at that for now. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye.